What's up, everyone? Today I have a pretty interesting guitar on the bench. It's actually probably the grossest guitar I've ever worked on personally. Here's a shot of it picked up from the music store. I got it from a buddy who said that a gentleman came in and said he found it in an alley and he traded it for a pack of strings. So the store didn't know what to do with it, so they passed it along to me. And I like a challenge, so ugh. Yeah, I don't even know what that is. I was just calling it earwax because I didn't know that's as similar as it was to anything. It's missing one of the saddles, so that's gone. Definitely a lot of built up dirt and some gunk on the fretboard. Probably the same whatever that's on the body and the pick guard. And there's my little cat Mercury. He's like, "Mom, this guitar stinks." And here's the upper part of the fretboard. We've got some yellow paint kind of on the end. And also it has acoustic strings for whatever reason. Yeah, headstock's not in that great a shape either. Tuners seem okay other than being kind of dirty. And we got quite a few scratches. A lot of scratches. The front is filthy dirty, but the back's mostly just scratches. All right, let's get in here. I'm gonna clip off the strings, get them off of there. This is one of the few guitars that I didn't really get to play prior to doing, to fixing it up. Not that I'm a great guitarist, I'm not. I know a few cowboy chords. But this was something I wasn't going to put against my body or be touching any more than necessary. Check out what's underneath the back plate here. It's actually, yeah, that's pretty gross. But it's actually pretty clean. Like the springs in the claw and that cavity wasn't too dirty. So I'm pulling the strings out and I realize that I'm having trouble getting one of them to pull through. And then I see the culprit is we have an electric guitar string and an acoustic string jammed in through the hole, so it does not want to come out. I'm going to use the end of one of the spare acoustic strings that I clipped off to try and force the ball heads out the back. And it was easier to remove the saddle so there's the acoustic string comes out. And then I'll use the spare E string to push this shred of the electric guitar string out. And we're just gonna take off the saddles. And silly me started to try and remove the bridge before taking the tremolo springs off. So yeah, don't do that. Definitely take the springs off first because the tension make it very difficult. And now moving on to the grody screws. Eee. This guitar was disgusting in person, but all zoomed in like this, it's even grosser, if that's possible. At least none of the screws were stripped, so that was easy to take off. And here's my handy dandy knob puller. Ideally, you want to do this before you take the pickguard screws out, but you just hold it down with your other hand. And they are pretty gross. They still have some plastic underneath from the original protective film. Now we're going to get our first look at what's underneath. Clip off the ground and the jack. And we got some pretty cheap components in here. Nothing has a name. Bar magnet strap bottoms, very Squire-like. And taking the jack plate off. Pull it out of here. And also removing the claw. Good old lizard spit. I swear by this stuff. So I'm going in with a blue towel, which is like a lint-free cloth, and I don't necessarily recommend it. It's fine. I'm doing it to clean the surface as best as possible. I am going to refinish this guitar, so I'm not too concerned about making any minor other scratches. So I'm just trying to get off as most as possible. Look at that rag. And this is probably the grossest and most satisfying part. This big scrape coming up here. I was like, I don't want to spread that around. I'm just going to use my nail and get right across it. Scoop it up. Honestly, I don't want to know what that is. I kind of thought about it a little bit, and then I was like, no, don't think about that. I don't want to know. And here it is, cleaned up. Now you can really kind of start to see what was dirt and what was scratches. But I do like the burst color on it. But we'll see what we end up doing. Take the neck screws out. And the neck off. There's my little buddy. Sits there while I do all my projects. Yeah, I wanted to clean myself too after touching this guitar. Strap buttons are usually pretty gross. Just in general, they just kind of collect stuff. But this is the worst strap button I've ever seen. Look. And moving on to the tuners. I'm just gonna loosen these up and take those out off the top. And I'll unscrew the set as well. This one had some kind of wax, like a white wax melted all over the tuning pegs. My husband said from Munda. So yeah, we're going to take those off. I cleaned these up off camera, so used or not, they're all clean and polished up again. So yeah, headstock's not in much better condition than the body was. And moving on to the pick guard, we're going to get the pots out of them. Pull that switch tip off. And we're pulling the pickups out. I will clean these pickups up and give them a second use. I'm not averted to reusing some of this stuff, but for this guitar, we're going to go in a different direction with the pickups. So I'll probably just clean these up and either stash them away or put them up for sale. Someone else can use them. And gross. This is after one clean with just soap, dish soap, water, and a toothbrush. I would later do a second wash because you could see there's still some staining up at the top. I actually did a pretty good job. It took off quite a bit of it. There's still some of the sun staining, if you will, but you don't see any of it. And now I'm going to go at the neck. So we've got some gunkers here as I'm trying to polish the frets. I'm just using Quad Zero steel wool and a safety guard. And I don't do this with all my guitars, but any rosewood or rosewood type, like not a maple, because maple fretboards have clear coat on them, which the isopropyl will actually like ruin the finish. So don't do that. But if you're quick enough, you can use isopropyl either 70 or 90% and a cloth in a small circular motion to basically get off as much gunk as you can. It will dry out the fretboard, so it is important to put on some sort of hydrator as soon as possible, whatever your oil or synthetic oil is like. Same kind of situation with the headstock. I am using the alcohol to clean off all of this stuff, but again, it might affect a lot of the clear coat or finishes. So definitely use that with caution. Don't just go at it. Maybe do a test spot in the heel or something if you want to find out. And here's my fret honey. I love this stuff. I just give a couple sprays and I do use my hand to apply it. I think the warmth of my fingers kind of helps the wood want to absorb it. And I'm going to go on, make sure that I'm getting right up next to the frets because that's where it gets really dried out and the frets will actually start to lift if you don't get that nice and moist. Did I just say moist? And then you want to wipe off any of the excess oil, at least with this honey, with a lint-free cloth. So that's after the second wash there on the on the pickguard. And we've got the nice clean neck on top. We got the slow blink of approval from Murky. And moving on to the bridge. I'm going to take the block off the back. I could do it without, but I just assumed that the back of the bridge plate would be pretty grody, which it was. And I'm going to use my handy best friend, Flitz paste polish. This stuff is amazing. I wouldn't say it like buffs out all the scratches, but definitely a lot of the finer ones, and definitely all the grody. So you want to rub in the polish and then wipe it off with a clean side of the cloth. And that's a world's difference. I also noticed some kind of oxidation buildup on the blocks, so I just took some steel wool. I'm just going to kind of go along the edges there. Much better. And we'll reattach it. Make sure she's on there nice and tight. Looks good. Now moving on to the neck plate. This definitely has some residue. And that does quick work, taking off all that residue. So you want to rub about a dime size, just depending on the size of the piece, and then buff it off with like a clean part of the cloth. And this switch is going to be replaced. We're going to put a Switchcraft jack in there. And so I'm just going to take it apart, give it a clean with a polish. And it's just like new. Now I've washed with soap and water the knobs and the plastic neck plate part. Nice and clean. And next I'm going to work on the body. We're going to get into the refinishing. So since this is not nitro, or at least I'm going to assume it's not, I'm just going to scuff it with this green generic, not name brand pad. But basically some sort of scouring pad. You're just trying to rough up the surface enough for the next layer to stick. Make sure I'm getting all the nooks and crannies and everything's nice and scuffed up and ready for the next layer. I decided that I liked the burst finish on it, so after giving it this scour, I'm actually going to just make it like a matte satin finish over top. And so this scratching or scuffing will allow that clear coat to stick better to it, and actually you won't see any of it after that's done. And here I'm just wiping it down with a damp cloth just to get any residual sanding material off. So moving back to the neck, I realized that there were quite a few gouges in the frets, and that's not going to work. So I actually decided I was going to set that aside, maybe for a future refret. And I had this nice Squire strat neck sitting around from a past project, actually. So we're going to do a swaparoo. It'll be a nice neck upgrade for this guitar. Set it in the pocket. Everything fits pretty nicely. Got it all mounted on. Nice and solid. Heading back onto the neck process, we are doing the same thing that we did before. We're going to polish with the steel wool and clean with the isopropyl alcohol. And then we're going to oil it with the guitar honey. I just love how much it brings out the grain in the wood on the fretboard. So frickin' gorgeous. glamour shot here. And here is a contraption that I've made. Since I live in an apartment and do all of my spraying in the literal back alley, I created this mount to screw the bodies onto in the neck pocket. And it's got this giant carabiner clip that I can clip onto the shower bar in my bathroom. And this is especially nice because I can shut the door and leave the fan on, and it keeps a lot of those fumes out. Here's the spray I'm using. We got a matte finish. I did about 5 coats. And this is it with the matte satin finish. As I said, I do it in the back alley, so I just take it out, give it a spray, bring it back inside. But I've been getting some pretty decent results doing that, so. Now we're going to officially put the neck on. Get those screws all in there, nice and tight, just hand tight. And next we're going to put the tuners in. These are actually the exact same style as what was on it, but I decided to go with gold. And you'll see why in a little bit as the theme for this guitar starts to reveal itself. And here I'm not wrenching them down, I'm just getting the inserts threaded on just enough to keep it in place and centered in the middle of the hole in the headstock. And then I'm going to install it on the back with the mounting screws. Be careful, these break off in necks very easily. And we have some residue from the made in whatever sticker that was on the back of the neck. I'm also going to take the opportunity to remove the little protective covers on the back of the tuners. And I'm just using my lizard spit again. It's I wouldn't call it a degreaser, but it's just a tad lighter of that, but it does help loosen up some of that. Beautiful. All right, now we're going to go in and tighten down all of them on the top. And I also found some gold strap buttons. And here's the pickups that we picked. I realize I'm setting them in the wrong orientation, but we have 2 Strat size lipstick pickups and 1 humbucker lipstick pickup, all in gold. And I just think it's a stunner. After getting the gold pickups in there, I had a set of Strat knobs that had a little bit more of a gold tone to them. So I'm actually going to swap those out. And I want to do a special shout out to my husband, Cameron, who does all of the pickups and the wiring. And he does a lot more than that. All of the music stuff that we do is really done together, but this is kind of his forte. And look, we got Bourne's pots, Oak Grigsby switch, cloth wiring, switchcraft jack. I mean, this thing's awesome. Oh, look at the gold saddles that we got put onto the original bridge. Gonna throw the claw back on. Put that bridge in there and install it. We really wanted to do like a mixed metal, like not go all gold, just very mixed metal. I think it makes it so unique. It gives it something a little different. Make sure those springs are on there nicely. Everyone knows the game of trying to get the wires to lay where they should. And I realize here that I need to file down the neck pocket portion of the pick guard, because you'll see I put this screw in and realize it's too tight. It needs to go that way. So I filed it down with just a 4-in-hand file, just shaped it a little bit more like the new neck, and then it fit seamlessly. And we did a little swapping here. Originally we had gold screws on the pickups, but we made those chrome and then all of the outer screws gold. And this is kind of interesting. This hole in the pickguard never had a hole mounted. And even looking back on the footage, there was never any screw in there. So we're going to make a new one. And here it is all mounted in. We're going to keep with the mixed metal theme. Put some gold screws onto the chrome jack plate. And last final touch is installing the back plate with gold screws, of course. And then let's take a look back at where we started. Acoustic strings, dirty, gross, missing stuff. And here she is. Just have a nice silence to appreciate. I think the mixed gold and silver gives it something special. The lipsticks, which I don't have a sound sample for you, sorry. It went off to its new home. But the lipsticks look great and they sounded great. The new neck was the perfect addition. I just think it had just the right tone, just the right look. And I still like that some of the nicks and dings are visible. I think the matte finish kind of makes that look a little classy. The pickguard shape is really unique. Gives it something a little different. I want to thank you guys for sticking around with me. I know this is the longest video I've made thus far, but if you enjoyed it and you're satisfied with the result, I'd appreciate any like or follow for more projects. It just helps me take on things like this and be able to take something unwanted and make it something wanted again. Thank you all so much for watching.